Alright. Welcome to UFC Fight Night, whatever the fuck. Holm vs. Vieira. I'm here to talk to you guys about the fight card, give you my predictions, my picks, which are my predictions. Turns out I'm stupid. And my bets. I'm going to start at the top with Holm vs. Vieira. I didn't bet on this fight once. Not one bet. And I have a lot of bets here. But my prediction I can give you. Holm via decision. And you can imagine how I think that's going to go. She's going to pull guard at least 3 times in this fight. Probably go for those takedowns, double legs from the outside. No, alright. It's going exactly the way you thought I would think it's going. If I said that right. Holm is going to win this fight on the feet, technically and tactically. Superior movement. Superior athlete, even though she's at least a decade older than Vieira. And Holm is going to win this fight, I want to say by decision, but she could win via knockout. It's possible. Ketlin Vieira was knocked out cold by Irene Aldana. And Holm is precisely the type of fighter that could fill that hole, so to speak, where she's, even though I don't want to make it like Holm is the biggest concussive striker out there, she's good enough technically where she's going to find that chin. And she's a big, strong woman. So there's a chance it happens. But no, I'm picking against it. I'm picking Holm to win a decision. I think Holly will win the majority of the fight on the feet from the outside. Ketlin Vieira is obviously going to be trying to get the fight to the ground, and it'd be really interesting to see if she has success, especially early in the fight, but only to see how Holly looks later on in the fight. But overall, I do think Holly's good and sound everywhere. She's a really strong athlete, pretty much the female Crow Cop, and I do trust her takedown defense. But even if she is wrangled to the floor, I think she's good enough to survive and get back to her feet and get back on the bike. You know, she's just like Wonder Boy Thompson. Even though I said she was just like Crow Cop, but whatever. She's like Wonder Boy Thompson when she's on the feet. Really tough to get a hold of and really tough to outpoint. Like under any circumstances, Holly's probably going to be scoring more points on the feet. So I'm going with Holm via decision. Be awesome to see her get a win here. I think a lot of people look at her and they're tired of her, but especially with Juliana Pena in the driver's seat there. I really like Holm winning this fight for the division, which I didn't think I'd say that for a long time. That Holm winning would be good for the division, but this one might be. Next up, Michel Pereira versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. I've got Michel Pereira winning this fight. I think he wins it by decision. And I think, generally speaking, it's the same way Holm wins, where the majority of the fight will be Michel scoring more points from the outside. I think he's the better fighter, much better fighter from the outside compared to Ponzinibbio. But Ponzinibbio, should be looking to reduce this fight to a brawl. And even then, I'm not sure that's going to work out for him. If he's able to get inside and start throwing down, I think he's got better offense there, but also worse defense. Michel Pereira, I want to say, is the healthier fighter. He's been knocked out a few years ago to, ironically, Dusko Todorovic, who's fighting next on this card, or actually he'll be fighting before Michel Pereira. You understand what I mean? But Michel is the healthier fighter, I want to say. And if Ponzinibbio is looking to get into a war, and, if he's successful in that, I still don't think it favors him. Michel is the, that guy hits like a beast himself, even though he's looking to fight from the outside and be more the matador. If you're able to make that guy the bull, he's probably as strong a bull as there is in that division, or he's certainly up there. So I'm taking Michel one way or another. I'm picking him via decision. I'm trusting Ponzinibbio's chin. And also, Ponzinibbio might have some doubt. Like I said, he's been knocked out lately by Jin Leong. And he may be second-guessing himself, getting into a slugfest and whatever. He may not be able, or willing to go that route anyway. So I really trust the pick in Michel Pereira here. I think It'd be interesting to see if, I didn't even consider grappling for this fight. I didn't think I'd have to, but, if that's an option for Ponzinibbio, that's the path he should go down, absolutely. But I'm trusting Michel athletically to be good enough to defend that way, and I'm taking him to win via decision. I didn't bet on the prop for decision. I bet on Michel Pereira a good amount of times, just the money line, because I think it was tight enough where you're getting good odds, minus 120, and it covers a decision, and should the fight be reduced to a brawl, covers that knockout too. Next up, Dusko Todorovic, the aforementioned, I'll never miss a chance to use that fucking word, aforementioned Dusko Todorovic versus Chidi Njokuani. This is an interesting fight. I feel like this could go one of two ways. And by that I mean like 6 ways, and I'm going to cover them all here. Dusko, he's not as good on the feet as Chidi. Most fighters aren't. Chidi Njokuani, even though he's a UFC newcomer, he's a really seasoned fighter, and he's great on his feet. Really technical, down low, up high. He's really good and sharp everywhere. And Dusko Todorovic is tough and good, but he's overmatched on the feet, I think. So that's one way where I see Chidi Njokuani winning this fight. I think it could come early. Let's put it this way. If he does win this fight against Dusko Todorovic, I think Chidi gets the finish. I think it'll be on the feet and he gets the finish. If Dusko Todorovic wins this fight, you ask me what's the most likely way? He goes through that striking. He's able to impose his wrestling game. And his top game is pretty damn good. I think it looks somewhat similar to the Daquan Townsend fight. I almost said Jamal Hill. Daquan Townsend. So I'm a racist. Big deal. No, but I'll take Dusko Todorovic to win that way too. I think he wins this fight. Could go either way, but I'm going with Dusko to fight through the striking, fight through the fire. Potentially even hurt Chidi, because Dusko is good on his feet, but I don't think so. I think, it's going to come straight from wrestling and grappling where he wins this fight. And even though I said grappling, I think his most likely finish comes from ground and pound. I've seen Chidi Njokuani, in a few of his losses. It looks like, I can't say he folded, but things ended quickly and suddenly on the ground. With John Salter and... that was really more technical. On Andrei Koreshkov, who, whatever, there's no shame at all in losing to that guy. He's better than, most of the guys in the UFC. So, that's, not a shitty loss by any means. But still, Dusko Todorovic, that's his path to victory here, and I'm going with him. Why am I going with him? Because he's a plus 150. I like his money line, plus 150, but also the bet that I like more than that, because I feel like it covers the majority of both of their paths to victory, is the under 1.5 rounds. And I played that a good amount. Next up, I believe it's Eric Anders versus Jun Yun Park. I'm going to be betting on Eric Anders, and I'm picking Eric Anders to win. Not sure how it would go. I guess if I had to pick, I'd go with decision. That's my pick for the fight, Eric Anders via decision. But there could also be a finish too. Just I want to learn more about Jun Yun Park, and this is a great chance to learn about him, because Jun Yun Park's shown a lot of promise in the UFC, but even in that loss he looked good, but the loss also looked like that was just he had victory in his hands, and RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez was hurt. He was on his way out, and then he just turned it around and cracked Jun Yun Park, and that was it. And I could see that happening here with Eric Anders, to be honest. And particularly Eric Anders, because he just doesn't look good on his feet until he gets the victory. He always looks a bit sloppy, and I think he's a lot easier than most fighters to put on roller skates. But still, Eric Anders is going to be a big problem in this fight. Literally big, tough to dominate. He's got a lot of size on Jun Yun Park, and he's a very well-conditioned athlete. And I'm taking him to win because I do think, first of all, he's probably underrated as a grappler. He's absolutely underrated as a grappler. And I do think he could find a lot of success there. I think he's a much more versatile fighter than people give him credit for. And if he gets Park on the ground, he's going to be, he's a much bigger man. Eric Anders is 3 inches taller than Jun Young Park. He's got the reach on him, and he's not some guy who, he's got a big frame, and he's a big, strong athlete. He's a problem athletically for anybody in the UFC. And I see a well-conditioned athlete like him taking out the younger fighter. And I don't mean finishing him, but possibly finishing him or winning a decision. But I see him taking over this fight in one way or another. He's good enough where he's, got, like I said, underrated grappling and striking-wise, even though we've seen him outstruck before. He's really, really tough to put away. And he's a bigger, stronger man here, I don't see Jun Young Park winning the way Elias Teodoro fought him or, Thiago Santos, although, that's possible, but I don't see that happening here. I see Eric Anders winning this fight, with a hustle or a potential finish, that left hand of his. And I like the money line, got it at plus 160, Eric Anders. Next up, Polyana Viana versus Tabitha Ricci. This is an interesting fight. This is a very interesting fight. I feel like Tabitha Ricci is underrated after getting her ass kicked by Manon Fiorot. That was a tough loss against a much bigger, stronger fighter and a really good fighter. And Polyana Viana, she's been, out hustled and out grappled in the UFC, but she's an exciting fighter. And when she wins, typically, I think always it's via finish. She's got good hands, underrated, and she's got really good submissions. I don't even mean like, oh, her grappling's great. No, I mean like that level 1 thinking. She's got good submissions. That's what she's one of those fighters who just got good submissions. Like Brian Ortega or fucking Jason McDonald back in the day, where you're like, wow, this guy could probably submit anybody. And yeah, Polyana Viana, even though she was tapped out by Veronica Macedo, who's another fighter that I thought has a really good submission game. She'd been out grappled plenty too, but I just saw, really good guard work from her. She's like, and speaking of these two, Matt Schnell is like that. Matt Schnell is, he moves so well in the bottom, even though he was just submitted and he's been submitted before. I think he's a guy that can tap just about anybody in the division. And that's how I feel about Polyana Viana. Now, Tabitha Ricci, she's really good jiu-jitsu wise, but I like it. That makes it tough for Viana to get a finish, just on paper. But I really like the under in this fight anyway. Under 2.5 rounds. I got it early at plus 250. It went all the way down. Now it's at like plus 130. Still not favored to win for it to end in under 2.5 rounds, but it's much closer because Viana, she's been tapped, like I said, by Macedo, and all of her wins come via finish. She had that great knockout on the regional circuit over Amanda Ribas, or Ribas, if you don't know who I'm talking about, because I get all pretentious and start, Ribas. And Francisma Barros instead of Barroso. It's Barros. All right, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and neither do I. Tabitha Ricci's got good grappling too, though. Really good grappling. Technically, on paper, she shouldn't be submitted here. And, if her grappling is that good, she should theoretically have a chance to submit Viana. I'd say Tabitha's best chance of winning is imposing a wrestling game and stuffing the guard of Viana and winning on top. But getting it there could be troublesome. On the feet, I think this fight is pretty much one-sided. I don't think Viana is Manon Fiorot, and I know that's the only fight I've seen of Ricci getting her ass kicked in the UFC, but Viana's got underrated hands, and she's got a good amount of reach. Just like I was talking about with Eric Anders, Viana's got, I think, 4 inches of height and reach on Tabitha Ricci. She's going to be a big problem on the feet, and Ricci, I know her game plan probably will be to hit takedowns, but That could be tough too, especially when she's paying every between every shot of hers, every takedown shot. So I really think Viana's the way to go. I'm taking her via decision, which I think would be really rare. Obviously it'd be her first victory via decision. But my bets, the majority of them are on the under, just because I thought that line was so juicy. And then towards the end, as it closed down, I started playing Polyana Viana, still at underdog odds, but pretty much even money. Or not even, minus 110. I think Tabitha Ricci was minus 120. But I still like Viana to win the fight. That's the bet here. I like Viana to win the fight. Her winning via decision would be an anomaly, literally, on her career of 12 victories. Now it'd be 13 victories with one decision. But so, you'd think Viana could find a way to win via finish there. But still, I'm just trusting Ricci's got that good of a grappling defense. Next up, Alan Amadovsky versus Joseph Holmes. This fight is interesting. I don't think it belongs here as the... is this the fucking main event of the prelims? Either way, Joseph Holmes didn't look particularly great, although he was fighting a difficult opponent in Jamie Pickett in his UFC debut. Amadovsky's been out for 3 years at this point. We last saw him get knocked dead by John Phillips in 17 seconds, I think, or 15 seconds. Not a good look. He's fighting a much bigger guy than he or John Phillips. Joseph Holmes should have 3 inches of height on him, I believe. And look, in this fight, if you ask me there's a lot of variables, but if I was asked with a gun to my head, who do I think wins? I'm going with Joseph Holmes. Joseph Holmes, of course, is favored to win. I think Joseph Holmes wins. If he does win, how's it most likely to happen? I think it's with size and grappling. He gets a submission of round 2. That's my prediction. He's got enough skills, enough advantages in this fight, and good enough grappling chops where he should be able to put Amadovsky away if he's winning the fight. Amadovsky, he's got to get inside and start making Joseph Holmes pay in the beginning. I think his best chance of winning this fight is knockout in round 1, and if not, knockout in round 2. That's what he's got to go for here. And Joseph Holmes, he may be trying to fight longer and try. I don't know if he's comfortable enough to fight that way, where he can fight long and defend against an aggressive, shorter fighter. But I expect to see a little of that, and when it fails, maybe some grappling. In general, I like this fight to end. My prediction, Joseph Holmes, submission round 2. My bet, under 1.5 rounds. I think it covers the paths to victory for both fighters. The majority of the paths to victory. There's very few that don't end in the first round and a half in this fight, in my opinion. And you can get it at plus odds, I think, still. So that's my prediction. Joseph Holmes via submission. Speaking of under 1.5 rounds, next fight, Jailton Almeida versus Parker Posey. This fight is really interesting. Jailton's a light heavyweight moving up to heavyweight. Parker Porter, people look at him like he's some light heavyweight that ballooned up. His only fight at light heavyweight was the John Jones 14 years ago. So this guy's a heavyweight, and he looks every bit of a fucking heavyweight. He's got fucking wrists and ankles the size of my torso. He's a heavyweight. And Jailton Almeida, I think he's the taller. He won't be bigger, but he'll be taller, and he'll definitely have some physical advantages here. But technically is where he should win this fight. He's a minus 900 favorite or whatever, and the guy's a grappling beast. He's one of these top prospects in MMA, one of the absolute top prospects. Just ran through some guys in the Contender Series in the UFC and outside the UFC, all while taking grappling matches. And he's really favored to put Parker Porter away. That's why I hit the under 1.5 rounds, minus 135. If Jailton does win this fight, it's probably within the first round and a half. But I also played Parker Porter because I think there's something there. Parker Porter's a good fighter. We've seen him fight hard for 3 rounds in the UFC multiple times. He's a guy that, while he's probably never going to be considered in the best condition possible, he's a well-conditioned fighter. He's one of those guys that can just go, and I can see if he survives this fight on the ground, because I do think he'll be ripped to the floor early. I can absolutely see him taking over this fight and getting a finish in rounds 2, 3, or decision. Taking over this fight, where, you know, if it goes to round 3, I've got Porter winning this fight. Or winning that round, I should say. But my prediction, if I had to give one, Jailton Almeida via TKO, round 1. That's something else, too. Like, if you're going to play the props for this fight, Jailton Almeida via submission is like, you know, almost even money or something in round 1, I think. But, you know, TKO or knockout would be plus 500. When somebody's in the full mount, it's 50-50, whether it's going TKO or submission. Even if he's a submission artist like Jailton Almeida, I think in his last fight he got a TKO because he's, you know, he's won the fight with his jiu-jitsu already. Positional dominance. And then it's a matter of what the losing fighter gives him. And also with the ref stopping it, being right there and whatever. Every fighter's got good ground and pound from the mount and back mount. And I just think it's foolish to bet on submission for this fight. You know, you either play the round or play TKO. Because that's actually what I think is more likely, too. Porter's losses come via TKO. You know, he's a tough guy to submit, just on paper. And I think it'd be more likely. So my prediction, Jailton, round 1 TKO from the full mount. I have that a lot. My bets, and also Parker Porter and Parker Porter props at insane odds for rounds 2 and 3. And I really hope Parker Porter wins the fight, but we'll see what happens. Next up, what the fuck's Euros Medic versus Omar Morales. I only wrote down half their names, so I gotta piece it together. This fight should be wild. You know, it's rare that I'm looking forward to an Omar Morales fight, but Euros Medic is so fucking insane that I think he's gonna bring some excitement out of this one. This is one of those rare Omar Morales fights where I'm predicting the finish. I expect this fight to end at a finish in one way or another. Euros Medic, I think, is going to be a lot of trouble for Omar, especially in round 1. If he does put him away, it's going to be in round 1. And if he does win, he's going to put him away. That's what I think about his chances in this fight. Omar Morales, he's a guy that's, you know, he doesn't really go for it as much, although he's winning in those fights. He's comfortable winning a decision, is my point. And he's still got good hands, though, and he's got great cardio. And I could see him really giving Medic a lot of trouble if this fight goes past 1 round, and absolutely past 2. What I like about this fight is the under. Under 2.5 rounds, they set that line at almost even money very early on, and I hammered it. Now it's down a little bit, but still, I think it's a line worth hitting. You know, like I said, Medic's a guy that's do or die. If he wins this fight, it's in round 1. And if he loses, I don't want to say it's always going to be in round 1 or round 2. Like, he lost to, Jalen Turner tapped him out. I don't think it's always going to be like that in round 1 or whatever. But I do think in general it'll be where he's blown his wad and it's his turn to lose. So I like the under in this fight. My prediction, I'd go with Omar Morales, round 2 TKO. Of course, I bet on Medic to win round 1 finish. I do think there's something there. And I just want this one to be exciting. Omar Morales, especially when he's winning, it's typically not exciting. This one, I think it's going to prove to be absolutely the Medic show, which is exciting. And I really hope his name is Medic and not Medic. But what can you do? 24 minutes into the video. All right. Next up, speaking of Morales, Vincent Morales versus Jonathan Martinez. This one, I didn't really bet on too much, a few prop bets, but I like Jonathan Martinez to win a decision. That's why I didn't bet on it much, because there's not much money there. But I like Martinez to win a decision. I think he's a really good decision fighter, and I'm not even trying to knock him there. He's just really good at fighting long and tall, and he's very technical. Vincent Morales is not. But Vincent Morales is a brawler, and he packs more of a punch. I do think he could put Martinez away. We've seen Martinez knocked dead by Davy Grant, who hits like a fucking freight train for that weight class. And we saw Morales knock out Louis Smolka, ironically, who just got knocked out by Davy Grant 1 week ago. Or 5 days ago at this point. But anyway, still, this fight is interesting on the feet. I do think it'll produce excitement. I think Vincent Morales, he's always got the knockout chance. But in general, if he wins this fight by decision, it's going to have to be with knockdowns because he's going to be outpointed on the feet. And Martinez, that chin, it's failed him that once. But otherwise, he's looked really good in the UFC. A lot of great performances. And he's just a more trustworthy fighter. I see him winning this fight. I've got it via decision. And, that's also my bet. I bet on Morales via knockout, but also bet on Martinez via decision. Next up, Chase Hooper versus Felipe Kalash. This fight I'm not sure about. I've got some bets on Kalash by decision and even the money line that I'm now starting to regret a little bit because I'm starting to think Chase Hooper has the potential to win a controlling fight here. He's got the chance to win a submission over anybody. Well, I don't know about anybody, but, in most fights where he's booked against somebody his level, he's probably capable of submitting him. That's his path to victory in most fights. But Kalash is really good defensively. Not like he's perfect or anything. We've seen him dominate on the ground for at least a round by Domingo Pilarte and whoever. He's not perfect, but he's sound on the ground. And I think he knows in this fight he's fighting a kid that's very limited. He wants to keep this fight on the feet. And on the ground, obviously he wants to stay on top and stay out of Hooper's control. Hooper, he's a guy that if he laces one leg, he can control you for that round. And he can also tap you out, as we saw with Peter Barrett. That was just a hilarious fucking fight. But even that fight, Peter Barrett was dominating. He was dominating Chase Hooper for 2.5 rounds. That really was a great victory. But Kalash, he's more sound. I see him absolutely winning the fight on the feet. And when it's on the ground, I don't think he's going to be... I don't think he's going to be as dominable, as controllable as some of Hooper's past opponents. I think Kalash is going to be too much. I'm regretting it, like I said, because I placed a few bets that, I don't know, whatever. They're not sitting well with me, but I think they'll pay off. Gun to my head, I'm still taking Kalash via decision. And the first fight of the night, the last fight of this day, whatever. Sam Hughes versus Elise Reed. I don't know. This fight's tough. Elise Reed looked really good against Corey McKenna. It was a great bounce back after her shit defeat to Sijara Eubanks. And Sam Hughes, after a really rough stretch in her career, she got a big victory just 1 month ago. I think, maybe not even a month ago, against Estela Nunes. In a fight in which she was being tuned up, lit up for one round, but stood in the fight and, kept it close enough where she didn't get 10-8'd, lose a 10-8 round. And she took over that fight with her wrestling and her scrambling, too, in rounds 2 and 3, especially round 2. Round 3 was all hers. But she really worked hard for that victory, scratched and clawed, and took over the fight and took out a good opponent in Estela Nunes. I see her having a grappling advantage against Elise Reed. I don't think she's got the grappling or the size to put Elise Reed away like Sarge Eubanks. I don't see her getting the full mount either, Sam Hughes. But I see her getting the takedown. I see her holding top position and holding it well and finding more success than she even found against a gassed Estela Nunes. I think Sam Hughes wins this fight. I like her at plus 140. That's a great money line. And I haven't seen the decision prop available yet. That's the only reason I like the money line. But still, I played the money line. I do think it's a really close fight. I think Elise Reed showed in the Corey McKenna fight that she's not just some scrub. But I want to see how her hips hold up against somebody who's, a sharper wrestler. I don't want to say Sam is better than Corey McKenna, but Corey's too inexperienced. Corey just, my estimation of her as a fighter, as a comfortable fighter in that fight, well, went down. My estimation of Sam Hughes in the Estela Nunes fight skyrocketed. So that's at play here, but still, I'm going with what's on my mind, which is Sam Hughes via decision. So, give you my bets again, just to recap my bets. I like Michelle Pereira to win, money line. I really like that bet. I like Dusko Todorovic and the under 1.5 rounds. I like under more than Dusko because I feel like the under covers Chidi, who is favored to win, and Dusko covers the majority of both of their paths to victory. Next up, Eric Anders. I like beating Junyoung Park. I like his money line, plus 160. Can't go wrong there. I do think the finish is possible, especially if these two degrade into a fucking war, rock'em sock'em robots. But still, I think Eric Anders is capable of winning tactically, and I like his money line, plus 160. I like Polyana Viana, the money line towards the end, but early on I hammered the under 2.5 rounds, plus 250, which is now down to plus 130, but I still think there's value there, just because Viana is one of those do-or-die fighters. Although, again, my predictions, Viana via decision. But still, I'm just telling you what I bet here. Then Amadovsky versus Joseph Holmes. I really like under 1.5 rounds in that fight. I think that fight is it's going to end via submission in round 2 or knockout in round 1. And under 1.5 covers a good amount of that. I like the under in Medic versus Omar Morales. I really liked it when it was better odds. Now not so much. Kind of dissipated towards the bottom there of my page. But I like the under. Jailton Almeida versus Parker Porter. I really like the under in that one, back when it was plus 135 anyway. And I like Parker Porter to hedge that. Parker Porter, you got him, now he's plus 400. I got him at plus 500. And his odds to win in rounds 2 and 3 are just incredible. 25 to 1, whatever. I threw a few props on that because I do think Parker Porter's a sound fighter. I've seen him fight hard in round 3, and I haven't seen Jailton do that. So, especially in a fight like this with so many variables, it's worth a bet. And that's pretty much it. I also bet on Sam Hughes, but a few bets. Felipe Colares to win a decision. Jonathan Martinez, the decision. Vincent Morales, knockout. But mainly my bets are Medic Morales, under 2.5 rounds. Viana Ricci, under 2.5 rounds. Also Viana to win. And I bet something on Tabitha Ricci, a $5 or $10 bet Tabitha Ricci to win via decision, just as a bit of a bet hedger. Amadovsky, Joseph Holmes, under 1.5 rounds. Eric Anders, Jailton Almeida, Parker Porter, under 1.5 rounds. A few on Parker Porter. Chidi Njokuani, Dusko Todorovic, under 1.5 rounds. And Michelle Pereira, flat money line. I don't even know why. I read them all twice. All right, enjoy the fights, guys. I'll talk to you soon.